And I'm recording. All right. Hello, everyone. This is our HTML and CSS presentation for Web Dev Club. A few things before we get started. I'm hoping that everybody's got a github.com account. If you don't have one, you can make one for free on their website. Super easy to do. Just choose your username. I'd also like everybody to have a text editor if you want to follow along with me. I'm a big proponent of Visual Studio Code, or VS Code as we call it. So that's really helpful for our text editing today. And also just some other like content. I put a picture of a corgi. I thought it'd be fun. Just as an example that I want to make a website for my dog. I thought that'd be kind of a little fun thing as we're making our HTML site here. So without further ado, let's get started with our tutorial here.
Are you sharing your screen?
That is a great question. I'm recording the screen. I'm not sharing it yet.
Let's all have a look at Bailey's screen once he decides to share it here.
Good start, everyone. Okay, well, anyways, here's my first slide, just that everybody wants to take a look at before I move on. Again, that's a github.com account, text editor, and any like pictures or like music files you want to add to your site. And for anyone that wants to follow along, just go over to the meetings channel and click on my live button there and view my screen. Cool. All right, I'll give you just a little bit of an overview of what we'll be talking about tonight. First, we'll just be talking about what is HTML to start with. I'll talk about a bunch of the different common HTML tags that you might see. I'll talk about what CSS styling is like. I'll give a few tips and tricks on how to use the inspect element tool. I'll also talk about hosting an HTML page. And if we've got any time at the end, I'll talk about Bootstrap and maybe some other library options that you have available to you. So to start, what is HTML? I mean, it's kind of a buzzword in the web development community, but it is your bread and butter for websites. It is hypertext markup language, and essentially this is like the backbone of any website that you'll see. I've got just a simple picture of what the code looks like over on the right. If some people even argue that it's not even code, but you can see in all these angle brackets, here's all the HTML tags here. This is kind of what makes up pretty much every website that you'll see. It's a way to organize and display content. So you'll see you've got a bunch of different text here in like a header, and you can see these titles here. It's very hierarchical, meaning that everything is organized and everything's got like a parent and everything's got like a child, that kind of a display format. So here's all the different HTML tags that we have available to us. Like we saw on that last page, there's a head, a body, div, paragraph, headers, link, image, table, form. There's a bunch of different things here. The most common ones that you'll see is the paragraph. That's where that text is going to be coming in. Divs, otherwise known as dividers, to kind of divide up content as the name suggests, just really to organize things. Your head is where a lot of your scripts and any like external files that you want to put into your site would be coming from. And the body is really just where all of your main content that's going to be displayed on the page goes. There's a bunch of other fun stuff that we can put in there, like headers to organize content by making titles for certain sections. We can have links to different pages or different files on your site. You can put in images, tables, and forms, just as some other special things for special cases. Before we get into CSS, I just want to show you quick that you can go and look at other websites to go and see what this looks like. So if I say I go over to like apple.com, so you've got this like really professional looking website, but behind all of it, and I'll show you inspect element in a bit here, but here's all the HTML behind it. You can see all these different tags. You see that Apple's got these divs here. They've got other things like script tags here where they're pulling in their own scripts. They've got a nav bar at the top that uses the nav tag. And we'll talk about all these different things past the tag there, inside the tag, all these different things that you can label it with. And here's the body of the entire page here. So exactly what I was saying before, you can pull in all this stuff, and pretty much every website's laid out in this kind of general format overall. So before I get into that, let's talk a little bit about CSS, and then we'll get into actually making a website here. So CSS is really just the frosting. If HTML is the cake, it's the way to spice it up, make it look all nice, decorate it. Again, really just how to make things look cool. It's the background color for your site, changing the text color. You can change the fonts with things. But it's also used for making things a little more organized. You can set up how you want things to be in relation to each other, which is kind of how those divs come into play. And it's also how you can make your site mobile friendly with these things called media queries. So you can make things that look really good on a phone, but change depending on whatever screen size you're viewing it on. There are also different properties for each HTML tag or certain classes or IDs. You can see over here, this is what CSS looks like as that kind of language. You can see like for any H1 tag, it's going to have these different properties here. So you can see it's changing the color to blue. It's adding a bottom 2 pixel, that kind of a thing. For any paragraph tags, you can see it's changing the font or the size and the color there. And here's somebody might have made their own class. That's what that dot is for. So for anything with the class red text, it changes the color to red. So if everyone's got their GitHub open here, before we go and do inspect element, I'll come back to that. Let's actually go and build a website. So what I'm going to do is take everyone over to github.com. Here's mine. I'm signed in here. Let's say I want to go make a new repository. So the way we're going to be making our website today is with GitHub pages. So I'm just going to click that new right there and make a new repository. We'll have a whole GitHub tutorial later, I think next week, Owen, if I remember correctly. And we'll talk about how to go in more detail with this later. But for now, just kind of follow me step by step if you're not too familiar with Git, and we'll get your website set up. So you can name this pretty much whatever you want here. My repository, well, I'm going to make this for my dog, so I'm going to be Maisie site. That's what I'll make it. I don't think it allows you to have spaces in there, so just something simple that you'll remember. I'm fine making it public. You can make it private if you want. And I will add a README just so that it's a little bit easier for me to figure out things on my computer. So let's go ahead and create the repository then. And here's my repository. Pretty blank right now. There's actually no website here yet, but you can see that there's a README saying just like, I've committed it initially. Great work, everyone. So next what we're going to do is get all this stuff onto my computer. So I'm going to go over to this code tab and either just copy it from here or click on the copy here. For those of you on a Mac, you'll go into your terminal app, which you can either get to through command space and looking for terminal, or you can go to like say your launchpad and look for terminal. Those are the two common ways that I usually do it. And then for Windows users, I prefer this Windows PowerShell or terminal. I think it's Windows terminal that I'm using to get there. So what I'm going to do now is get this code onto my desktop. And so the way we do that, again, this works both for Mac and for Windows. We'll do git, or actually I need to go back to my desktop here. When you open it up, go to CD desktop. This will change your directory so that you're working on your desktop. Oh, there we go. So it'll probably start you in your user folder. You'll probably want to go to CD desktop, but I'm already there. So once you're on your desktop, that's where I'm at right now. We're going to clone our project so we make a copy of it on our computer. So I'm going to do git clone and then paste in what I had from my browser. So that's what we're doing now. Perfect. Now that we've got that, we've got a place that we can start. I'm going to open up my Visual Studio Code. I've already got something up, so I'll just open up a new window. That's what I've got now. And let's go and open up that Git repository that we created. So I'll go over to File, and I will open a folder. And I should, on my desktop, see my Maisie site there, and I will select that folder. Great. Now we've got that open on my computer here. You can see that README that we had there. There's the name of it. So let's go make our first HTML page. What we can do is right-click and new file. Most commonly, it'll be called index.html. So that's what we'll make there. Cool. We can really just type anything in here. It doesn't have to be HTML. It can just be text if you want. So just to test things out, I'm going to make a hello world and save that, Control S or Command S if you're on a Mac. Then what we can do, this actually can be opened in your browser even if it's local, just to your computer. So let's go over to my desktop here and I'll go over to my Maisie site. And if I just open this up, you can see it'll open up in Chrome here. And there is my index.html. Hello world. So far we've got an HTML page just kind of hanging out here, but it's not on the internet quite yet. Before we do that, I just kind of want to talk about a little bit more in depth on the different HTML things, because I just kind of ran past all that the first time around. So let's go a little bit more in depth on what these things are. I've already got this other site that I made for my other dog as a test. So I will start by taking a few of these things over there. The first thing is that we've got this HTML tag. So let's go into my other thing here, get rid of this, and we'll... VS Code likes to finish things for you, which is helpful in some instances and not in others. So there's our HTML tag. This is kind of going to be the overarching tag for everything that we've got in here. And like I said before, you've got your head tag and your body tag. That's how we'll separate things out. And again, that head tag is for all the stuff we want to pull in before the site loads, and also special things like titles and stuff for the site. But body's where the actual text is going to go. So I guess the first thing we can talk about is something just really simple. We've got a paragraph tag. And then this is where we can put some text in the middle of it again. We can still do the hello world kind of a thing here. And if we save that, I can go back over to my browser, reload the page, and it's still got that hello world there. But we really didn't change much there. But let's say I wanted to go and make like a list of things. There's two types out there. There is an ordered list, or an OL tag, and we can put some list items in it, or LIs within it. So let's say we had these are really useful for say a recipe you wanted to make. Say this is step 1, and then we can also just make a bunch of these, so step 2 and step 3, that kind of a thing. And you'll see that when I go back into the browser and I reload it, you can see that it gives that number in front of it, 1, 2, 3, that kind of a thing. So it does that all automatically for you. You don't have to count it out by hand as you would in an unordered list. And I can show you what that looks like. That's pretty much the same thing, except with the O, we'll just put a U. Make sure that you change that ending one as well. And here's our unordered list. Just bullet points then is very generic for that one. Trying to think what the next thing was that I wanted to show. Yeah, let's go show some headings. So I'll go over here, again in my body tag here. Everything's nice and organized again. Before I go and do that, get this out of here. So as you can see, there's the same text within all these different headings here, but they're all different sizes. It's a little bit counterintuitive, I guess, depending on the way you think about it. Heading 1 is the largest heading, going down all the way until you get to heading 6, which is pretty much just text at that point. So I'll save this and I'll show you what that looks like. So here's all the different heading options that we've got here. You can see they're bold, they're pretty big, and as you go down, they get smaller there. 6 is even smaller than the actual text itself, so don't usually recommend that one unless you change the styling on that. We've also got some other common things here. Let's take a look at this text area here. Throw that into our document here. So again, that's just a text area tag. You don't necessarily need to have all this stuff here. I just put it in so it makes it a little bit bigger. But these are some different characteristics, or attributes as they're called, that you can put on your elements to, say, change the amount of rows in it or the amount of columns in it. You can give it a name and an ID. But again, these aren't too important for what we're doing here. We're just doing an example. But if I save that and I reload here, you can see that I can go and edit stuff in the text box, which is pretty cool. And they've also got one of these things should, oh yeah, within the text area we can give some text that's already written in there. But something I will note is that this is client side, meaning that when we refresh the page, it's just going to end up with the same thing back in there, because that's what's stored in the file, and we didn't actually go edit it in a database or something. From there, we can also take a look at this HR here, or a horizontal line that you can throw in. So this one doesn't actually require a closing tag at all. This one's just a standalone by itself. I think you could put a closing one. I don't usually do it. It's not really worth doing. But you can see, you can just get a line going across the entire page there. So really good to like break up certain sections and things. Let's take a look at some audio controls next. If anyone decided to put in some audio or like music files into their site, you can totally do that. Chrome's got a built-in audio control. Well, I mean, all the major browsers do. They all look a little bit different, but they all kind of operate the same. Whoops. Cancel that. I actually have to go grab my file from my other folder here, but let's say you did have, let's see. I'll grab another file explorer here. So I'll go over to my other one here and grab my MP3 and just throw that in here. Hopefully, or not. Okay, I'll just throw it in this way. Perfect. So now we've got my MP3 here. I will save this. Owen and I tested this earlier. I don't think I'm sharing my audio, but just trust that that is blaring monkeys, spinning monkeys into my ears. You can also do that on your site as well. You can see that you can change the playback speed in the Chrome one, change the volume, and also change like where your song is playing from. Pretty cool stuff. Getting to the bottom here, we've also got a way to put images in our site. You can see this is the image tag, IMG. Every image needs a source, but then you can also specify stuff like width, height, and alternate, or ALT, which is great if you want to make your site accessible to, say, blind users, which is great for that. So let's grab that, and I'll throw it into my new site as well. I'll just throw that here. Again, I don't have the image here yet, so what I've got to do is, well, first let's go make a folder. We'll make a folder titled like pictures. You can put this just with the rest of your files. I like to do it this so it's a little bit more organized. And as it turns out, on my desktop, I have my doggo pictures here, so I'll just copy those and throw them. Let me go back to my desktop and back into my Maisie site, and we'll throw them in here. These are terrible names, so maybe I'll go rename them. We'll just use this one for example. So I'll just name that Maisie. Actually, it's a JPG. I'll rename it. Perfect. Okay, so now we've got that. We'll grab the source here. So what you could do is take it from another website, and with that you just put in the full URL of the image, so like http:// whatever the actual image address that you get from like Google or the site would be. Otherwise you can do it locally, and so you can, this is the audio thing here. It should be on the image. So pictures / and we'll do Maisie.jpg. And I'll get rid of this extra thing on the end here. That should work. Let's go back and reload the site. And I put in the wrong...
I think that you might need to add that second.
I did. Did I actually? Okay.
You have a couple .jpgs on the end.
Oh,
there.
it looks like we do. Let's just get rid of that. That's gonna annoy me. Okay, cool. Now it should work. Well, now we've seen what it looks like when you can't find the file. It'll just try to put in like a blank image there for you. But there's Maisie there. You can see that I already put a width on it, but I can change it to say like 50% of the page if I want. And then it just gets a massive picture of my dog on the web page. So I'll just put that back down to 20% for now. Going down further on the page, let's see here. What do I want to talk about next? Let's skip the form stuff for now. But I do want to show what these A tags are. These are anchor tags, or links essentially, that you can throw into your website. I'll throw this on the bottom here. You can either make them like an email address, as this one says mail to, and then the email address that you want it to mail to. Otherwise, a very common thing that people will do, you'll want your, so this is where it's going to, where the link is going to. You can put it to either another page on your site, or to just some external URL. So let's say I want this to go to taylorswift.com. Big fan of taylorswift.com. I can do that. Agreed. Okay, so underneath, see, this is all terribly laid out. We'll fix this with CSS. But you can see that if I click on this, it's even got that in that bottom left there. It should take me to taylorswift.com. But you'll notice that it just changes the current tab that I'm in to go there. So there is a way to get around that. And here what we can do is we can do target equals underscore blank. And what this does is it just creates a new tab when we click on the link. So if I go and refresh this and I just click on it, it should take me into a new tab and keep the website still open. So fun little tip and trick for you. Let's talk styling next. So there's a couple ways you can do it. Well, a few ways you can do it, actually. One is that you can just put the style directly into your tag itself by doing something like style equals and then whatever your CSS is. That is usually good for very small changes, but if you want to do something like a lot of color changes or a lot of text changes, you'll want to make it its own class and give the class all the styling so that you can use it in other places or make it just a little more organized. So I'll go ahead and do that. The way we can do that is just a style tag underneath the, wait, is it style or styles? Style. Great. I'll just paste some of these in here. Well, first I'll comment this out. Oh, and I've learned how to comment things out. Great. So
I'm so proud of you.
Thank you, thank you. So what we can do here is, like I said in the presentation earlier, we can either do this based on the tag or by class or by ID. So again, the way we could do it for, like, say, the background of everything, let's say we want all of the text in the entire body to be, I don't know, blue, right? So all you need to do is put body there and then whatever you want to happen there. So we could say color, this will change the text color to blue. Something like that. The nice thing about VS Code too is that if you just hover over this, you can change it to whatever you want. So very flexible there. And you can see that everything just turned blue within the body, which is pretty cool. What we can also do is change the background color of everything. So let's say we wanted to change the, oh, that's not what I wanted. Oh, I have this commented out, don't I? Okay. This is very terribly formatted, so I apologize for that. Let's see what this all does here. I made this work on my other side over here, so cool. So now we've got like a green background. I can show you how we did that. So here's our background color, and we made that forest green. This indentation is awful. In fact, what you can do is right-click and format document. That'll make things a little bit more organized for you automatically. Very helpful. You can just save that. You can see that for the body, I made our text color white. And let's go and do talking about flex containers after this. But I can also show you that this is a terrible way to do it because I have body twice. So let's say I throw that color in here, but you can see it still does work even if you do it multiple places. It's just terrible organization. And you want to make sure that these are kind of on the same level of indentation. It just makes things look a little nicer. So let's say we did want this for a certain class. We could do a certain class that just changes the text to orange, something like that. So we'll make a color orange, something like that. If you're making multiple things in these classes, make sure that you put a semicolon at the end. Unless it's just one, then it's just fine to leave it like that. So let's go make one of these list items orange. So we'll make this class specifically, remember that dot down at the bottom makes that it's a class that it's going to apply to. And we'll make the class orange. And you can name this whatever you want. I'm just saying I'm going to name it orange. And you can see that in particular turns orange instead of the entire thing. So that's that. You can also do this for IDs as well. So you can see we had like ID browsers on this other thing. To to do that, instead of using the dot, like the class, you would use a hashtag, or the pound sign, as some of the boomers call it. Let's see here. Let's go into Flex containers quick before we go deploy this. So I've got this Flex container here. I'm going to go pull this from our other thing over here too. The only stuff I added for this Flex container thing is just to make it so that these specific divs are a little bit more visible. But like I said before, CSS can also be used for organization instead of just like colors and making things pretty. You can actually organize the way your page looks. So to do that, I'm going to go down to the bottom here and throw in a Flex container. So just to tell you how this is all organized, we've got a div that's just the container here. And then within that, I've got a few boxes that I made like just a little bit wide. So it's got like 100 pixels wide around that. So if I go over here, you can see I've got my 3 boxes here. They're laid out like this. That is by default, but you can also make it so that they have flex display, meaning that even if like your screen size changes, this stuff will kind of move with the screen. So I can kind of show you what that looks like. Again, we'll talk about inspect element in a little bit here. But if I move this, you can see that this kind of stuff moves with the screen too, to a certain extent. We can also change it so that the flex direction looks a little bit different if we wanted. So again, just to get the display flex on there, this is the thing that makes things so flexible. Am I on? Yeah, no, I'm on Luna site. I need to be on Maisie site. So this flex container, that's got this here, right? And we've got display flex within that, and all the things that are contained within it, all these different divs containing the 1, 2s, and 3s. It's going to be organized in a row direction. So let's say I wanted to change that. I can make this into a column as well. So if I change this, you can see now they're all stacked on top of each other, which is kind of cool if you want to lay out like, I don't know, say personal projects on a resume site or something like that. It also gives you the opportunity to change the direction of things. You can even make it row or column reverse if you want. So now instead of being 1, 2, 3, it'll be 3, 2, 1. So you've got plenty of different options for how you want to lay out content on your screen. And again, it doesn't just have to be boxes with numbers in them. You can actually use this on full images, audio, lists, you name it, cards, that kind of stuff. So now that we've talked about all of that, oh, I still have this comment here. Okay, cool. Let's go and do something with this. So right now all I've got is this is just on my local machine here, right? This is just a file on my computer that I can't really go and access on the internet. If I refresh this, it'd be gone, right? So let's go put this somewhere. Let's go back to our terminal here. You can see I'm on my desktop here, but I want to change directories and go into the project that I'm working on. So again, mine is Maisie site. Again, make sure you're on your desktop and then go into the folder that contains your website. Once you're there, just to make sure you're in the right spot, you can do ls to list all the files that are there. You can see I've got my pictures and my index and my audio there and my README. So that's everything that I wanted to have there. Once we've done that, let's go and put this onto the internet. So to do that, we actually need to get all these files into the repository on github.com. So to do that, again, we'll explain this more in the next tutorial. Just kind of follow me for now. I'm going to do git add dot. So what this is going to do is it's going to add all these files and say, yep, these are ready to go. That shouldn't take too long to do. After that, what we'll do is git commit, and we'll want to put a message with it. So we'll do -m, and we'll say like, hey, I made a site. So we got that. Cool. You can see it's taking all these files here and it's like, yep, got all these, they're added. And now we're going to take this and we're going to send it over to GitHub. And so we're going to do git push. So we're just going to push it from our desktop to GitHub. Cool. It should take a little bit if you've got some files that you're trying to write over there. The images and the audio sometimes take a little bit. The text files, not so much. Cool. So now this is all on my Maisie site repository. So let's go head over there. I'll go back over to my site here. If I refresh, you can see, hey, I made a site. We've got some pictures, index, and we've got our audio file here stored in GitHub. But how do we go and make a site out of this? Great question. I'm glad you asked. In the, I want to say settings. Oh man, I just did this recently too. Settings, pages. There we are. Cool. GitHub Pages is currently disabled. I mean, it's always disabled for GitHub repos, but we can actually go and make a page just by selecting the branch. I mean, we only got one branch, so we'll make it the main, and we will save there. There's also options. GitHub's awesome. It's got a bunch of different themes you can choose and mess around with. I just wanted to keep things simple for tonight. And you can see that your site is ready to be published. So if I go to this URL, uh-oh, wait a second. There isn't a GitHub Pages site here. Oh, that's not what I wanted. Now it's published. Wait, what? Read our full documentation. How to set up GitHub Pages. I might have skipped a step here. Okay, creating a GitHub Pages site. So originally you use your repository name there. I believe if you want to get like a specific URL, you have to put it as your username. But it should be public. Oh, let me go check here. You can see the one I did with my other dog over here, located at github.io/Luna site. So this is the one I did as a test before this. I don't know why this isn't working right now. Should be on the main branch. Try to click save there. Let's try going to that one more time here. Interesting. It might take a little bit of time for that to go on. All right, well, while we wait for that to actually go and hopefully get the, I think it might be an HTTPS issue. I'm not entirely sure. While we wait for that though, let's talk a little bit about Bootstrap. So like we talked about before, CSS is great for making that decorations and the organization stuff for your site. But luckily, there have been a lot of smarter people than me that can actually make a lot of these templates for us to use for free, which is really nice of them. Bootstrap is just one of many. There's also things like Material UI that you can use. Basically, these giant libraries of CSS things that people have already made that we can use to organize our site as small components. This is just an example here. You can see these cards that people have made. You've probably seen something like this before with this like gray header here or like the gray nav bar at the top. That is all Bootstrap. It's very popular by a lot of web development people. I can show you what that looks like. I think I've got their site up. So essentially all you've got to do to get this stuff into your project, there are node packages, and we'll talk about node stuff in another time. But if you just want to quick and dirty get this into your project, you can just add this CSS link into the top of your project. So if I go into mine, we can throw that into the head. That's what it's for. It's for links to like other CSS references. We can also throw in the JavaScript script tag there, which I probably should have mentioned before that you can actually use a script tag inside your HTML to actually like throw in JavaScript and stuff. So this is all the stuff you need to actually get Bootstrap into your project. That's the Content Delivery Network, or the CDN as they call it. And then what we've got available to us is all these different components here that Bootstrap has made available. So you've got these accordion things here. You've got alerts that you can have, these different reminders. These might look familiar to you if you've used, I think Twitter uses a bunch of these. Plenty of sites use these, breadcrumbs. Definitely buttons are very popular from the Bootstrap library, and especially cards as well, with these different images here. So let's say I wanted to do something really simple and just grab like a button from the Bootstrap library. They have their own CSS that they throw on everything. So when you make the class BTN, it puts on the Bootstrap button class like CSS styling to it. So you don't have to make your buttons look super fancy or anything. It just does that for you. So I can show you hopefully if this works. Cool. Got that here, and let's go back over to Maisie's site here. And there's our button. It's way stuck up in the corner here. Which actually, this gives me a good opportunity to talk about margin and padding here. So another thing that you can do as part of organization with CSS is we can actually give some space in between elements here. So let's say we wanted to get some space between like the top and the side and this body element here. Let's go down to our body tag here, and we'll do margin. We want to make sure we get our semicolon there. Margin, let's say 5 pixels or something like that. And you can see now it's moved things a little bit for margin, but you can also do this like crazy too. You can make it like 50 pixels if you want. So now it's super far away from the side there. And Bootstrap also has a bunch of different ways that you can organize stuff too with like rows and columns that kind of automate a lot of the Flexbox stuff for you, which is pretty cool. What other stuff from Flexbox here? I can show you the difference between like what a button from Bootstrap looks like and just a normal like run-of-the-mill button. So here's what I would just get if I just put my own button in here without the Bootstrap styling. Should just look like a very sad like generic button, whereas the Bootstrap one, this look at this, it's even animated and everything. It's not sad at all. And if you've got a bunch of like JavaScript functions, you can even make it do stuff on your screen. I believe my UI professor said HTML is like the cake, CSS is like the icing, and JavaScript is like the clown that bursts out of the cake to surprise everyone. So JavaScript and HTML and CSS, those three are very powerful altogether. What other stuff that I want to talk about here? That might be everything. I don't know why this isn't going for me here. Luna site looks just fine. Oh, that is my local file. Wait, 1 second. Here we are. Let's go back over to Maisie's site and see if it's up by now. Still an issue there.
I've also been trying to bail and I can't say I have any idea why it's not working.
Branch.
I just want to say that I've been following you and I got my site to work.
Oh,
I
fantastic.
don't know why it worked, but it worked.
Nice.
Yeah, it worked the first time I did it.
Yeah.
I wonder if multiple is an issue. I'm not sure.
I changed the root folder to docs folder and it seemed to work.
Let's check it out. So we're doing some live troubleshooting here. Well, I mean, this isn't the most important thing to me here. The most important thing is that you guys know how to do it if you wanted to yourself here. It's good if everybody else's is working. Again, I've got my Luna site up from my previous tutorial series. My orange background, beautiful. But I believe that's, oh yeah, we could talk about inspect element quick. I know we've gone for 40 minutes here. The last thing I just want to talk about is if you're trying to, say, edit your own stuff, or if you just want to kind of experiment with other pages, you don't always have to go back into VS Code and go change everything. Let's say I wanted to just go test things out really quickly without actually having to go edit the code. I can just right-click and inspect, and it brings up this panel here where I can see all the HTML elements on the page as I hover over them over here. Also has it on the left-hand side. You can also see all the different CSS things that are applied to all of them and kind of mess around with them a little bit. So let's say this like heading 2, I can change the font size of this heading and just completely disable it here. You can see it changes the font size. For this specific element too, this works on anything that you have selected. Let's say I wanted to change the color of it. I could change it to like purple just to see how that would look. Again, these are all very temporary changes that you make just in your browser here. So if I refresh this, it'll go back to what it was before. Same thing if I go over to like Apple's site and I wanted to go and inspect this and I wanted it to say like, oh, they don't even have any text on their stuff. That's even hidden there. Okay, Apple's a terrible site to do this on. Let's go over to like, I don't know, big fan of the TaylorSwift.com. Good example. Let's go change the title, and we'll make it say Owen Hunt. There you go. And so there you can, you can go mess around with sites, impress your friends, that kind of a thing. But mainly it's for just experimenting with your own code, I think. It's really helpful for that. If you refresh, it goes back to the normal thing. And I think that is everything that I wanted to talk about today. I'm also just going to open it up for questions. Does anyone have any questions on anything we talked about? I know we kind of covered a lot there. I hope at least some people were able to publish their GitHub pages sites. Otherwise, I can help troubleshoot that after this if you want. No questions. Did everyone have fun? Was that a good time? I hope so.
It was hard to follow, to be
It
honest.
was.
It was going really fast.
Yeah, I know. We did cover quite a bit there. I will be, this is being recorded, so I'll put it on YouTube if you want to go and like look back, pause anything. And again, I'm also available for questions after this or pretty much any time in Discord if anything went over your head or if anything was way too fast. HTML, CSS, and GitHub is a lot to cover in 45 minutes, so apologies if it was pretty fast.
I think it was just mostly we couldn't keep up and type the code at the same time before you bounced away.
True, true. Yeah, again, if you want to go look at the recordings afterwards, I will make those available, and I'll give you the YouTube link for that then.
Voting were the friends you made along the way.
That's right.
I don't know if you're able to do this, but I know with some of the stuff that you had in your other dog file, Luna, I think it is,
Yeah.
there was certain things that you didn't like put in there. Is there a way to get the different types of stuff that you have in that file just because, like, put it into a text file and upload it just so there's certain tags and stuff that we didn't cover that we can see, or is there going to be like another HTML CSS thing where we'll go more in depth?
Honestly, most of these, actually, that's a good point. I should talk about some of the resources. So this was not my own doing completely. A lot of this stuff is examples that you can get off the internet. I'm a big fan of w3schools.com. I know that's kind of a controversial opinion for some more experienced web developers.
Very controversial opinion.
But it's got a great like CSS tutorial series in here. It talks about all the different things that you can add, as well as HTML. It's got all the different elements and attributes here. Anything you could possibly imagine is in here. So I only gave like a brief overview of all the possible things that HTML has to offer.
Why is it very controversial among? Why is it controversial?
Great question. As Owen might tell you, a lot of people love the like Mozilla docs. There's plenty of different resources out there for you. I'm also a big fan of like a bunch of different like YouTube tutorials. The codeacademy.com HTML series is great. You really can't go wrong with a lot of the resources that people will recommend to you for HTML, CSS, JavaScript, you name it. They're all good places to start.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course. I'll also try to, with the slides, once I post those, I'll try to just make like a slide with all the different resources that I was just talking about.
Awesome.
Yeah, okay. Well, I think that's everything here. You guys are all free to go. If anyone has any lingering questions, feel free to stick around and I will be happy to answer them. But thanks again, everyone, for joining us tonight.